Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another thrilling episode of I was going to say Creative REI Replay.
Oh, really? Well, okay, start again.
Of flipping houses for rookies.
I'm stuck back at the thrilling part. I thought they were all thrilling.
No, this one's special today. This one's special.
All right.
I've been doing too many Creative REI Replay videos, I guess. So, but no, we're here at Flipping Houses for Rookies today, the podcast number 420. And the title of today's podcast is Top Proven Creative Real Estate Questions. So while I'm reading the description, I strongly, very strongly, in case you didn't get that, suggest that all of our listeners get paper and pencil because you're going to want to write some of these down because some of them are new.
Well,
here's today's description. It is time for all of our rookies to be aware of the questions that turn sellers into deal makers, so you don't have to know everything about creative real estate deal structuring. If you are looking for the ultimate secret weapon for your deal-making arsenal, then this is your life-changing episode. Today, we're exposing the questions so potent, so irresistible, that sellers will be begging you to take their properties off their hands. Only because these mind-bending techniques turn sellers into giving you their innermost held strategy advantages they hope and desire. Say goodbye to the days of memorizing scripts and having sellers knock you off the script flow. Today's insightful questions easily reveal seller motivation, desires, and what's needed and wanted to lock up a deal. This is not just another podcast episode. This is your ticket to the big leagues of creative real estate deals. Whether you are a rookie or pro, these simple strategies and how to use them will catapult you into a realm of success you never thought possible. So listen now and transform your real estate game forever.
well, I got my pen.
I heard you were making all kinds of noise there. It was like...
I was trying to be so quiet. Boy, these microphones are real sensitive.
They are, but that's okay. Emma will deal with it. So here we go. Let's do our housekeeping type activity first. So thank you very much for being here and supporting us by listening. Make sure you subscribe to us, you like to us, and you leave a comment. Like to us. Did you get that? Like us.
I did. I wasn't going to say anything, though.
It's kind of funny because I've been recording private podcasts, so I go back and edit myself, and it's kind of funny how I talk.
Well, we understand the important parts. That's the deal.
Yes. You can tell that my education's not. Anyway, so please subscribe, please like us, and please leave a comment wherever you're watching or listening to us. We live stream this every Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we live stream to two YouTube channels. One is Creative REI Replay. The other is Flipping Houses for Rookies. So when you go on YouTube, you can type in either one of those, and we will be there. The other two are LinkedIn and Facebook. So if you go to any one of them platforms, you can type questions in wherever they allow you to type during the podcast, as long as they pertain to the podcast. If they don't pertain to the podcast, we prefer you go over to flippinghousesforrookies.com and top right-hand side of the page is a support ticket. You can send Peter I support questions if they are private. If you want to be part of our little mastermind group, then you can go to WhatsApp Messenger, and we will get you into the group. Just type in, WhatsApp Messenger. The group is called Let's Talk Real Estate. Mm-hmm. Good morning, Chris. Chris says good morning to Pete and Bill.
Hey, Chris.
How are you today? So, the last thing I want to say is that today's episode, I strongly suggest you have paper and pencil because I am going to just give raw questions today, and I think you should write them down. Some of these questions are not written anywhere. I don't know what happened to me during this podcast, and I have a little bit of a surprise towards the end. I think it's a surprise. It's what I call new technology. Mm-hmm. That I've been writing a lot lately, and it's been amazing. I have no idea what's going on. I told my friend, or our friend Jay, he said, "What are you doing?" He called me the other day. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know, man. I've been just writing, and I got a lot of creative stuff happening." He said, "Well, that's good." I said, "Nah, not really. It's like water. Not enough is not good, and too much is bad."
Oh my!
So, anyways.
Oh.
All right, so here we go. Now that we're through all of that stuff, 6 minutes later, start of podcast.
Go.
As they say, Pete, ask and you shall receive. Right?
This is true.
This is especially true when poking around with a seller looking for their innermost important why, quotation, why that, let me figure out what I'm doing here. I kind of jumped into it without checking things out. Their innermost important why, quote unquote, right? Like, what's the reason why?
Yeah.
That we tend to throw around so carelessly when we call it motivation. So we always say, find a motivated seller. Well, what the heck is a motivated seller? And I defined it in multiple ways. Mm-hmm. But today we are going to help you figure out A, if they're motivated, and B, exactly bullseye when they are. And I don't think I've ever done that before.
Okay, so we certainly have tried, but it can only get more refined, right?
Yeah. So basically, a motivated seller is someone that says yes more than they say no to your ideas, right? So truth is, all people on planet Earth have an inner and outer personality to deal with, right? Inner meaning that they really feel or act that way chronically. In other words, over time or over a length of period. It's like their true personality.
Yeah. Underneath it all,
Right.
That's the way they are.
Right.
They can flip a little up, a little down, act this, act that. But when you dig in, there's something that's kind of always there, at least for a long time. Maybe down the road, something might shift, but nah. Right now, that's what you get.
My sisters used to do this with my mom.
Wow.
My mom would be blah, 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 and then she'll say, bam, there it is. And then my sister would go, there's Judy. It's kind of funny. So,
I think it's funny. That's the first time I heard your mother's name, except Mom. It's Judy. I never knew that.
Oh, really? Judith Ann.
Yeah.
Chris says, I have a quick question I've been meaning to ask. Do you use a service company to collect and make payments for you? Seems like it would get overwhelming. Yeah. So, that's not really part of the podcast, but I can answer the question real quick, Chris, because you're here every week. I use apartments.com. Apartments.com. You can also use avail.com. Both of them do a great job. Okay? All right, so truth is people have an inner and outer personality. The inner one is the chronic one, like who they are, where they really live, like their true, real feelings.
Which they're not telling you, right?
Right.
the ones they're not telling you.
Right.
And isn't that a big piece of the puzzle? Because that's the stuff you don't know, what's
Right.
really going on inside, right?
Yeah. Then the outer personality is the acute or shorter term or social personality. So they believe that others will think better of them.
Oh.
Now, I want to make a very short comment because I could make an entire podcast out of just this. Actually, I could probably make a series of 2 or 3 podcasts out of this, right? Of people's personalities, because we're really in the people business. So that's what I study a lot of is personalities, right?
Yeah.
But the point that I want to make here is that the inner personality of where somebody lives chronically, right?
Yeah.
Isn't always true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, for example, you could have a subconscious mind that is storing false data because it thinks it's going to help you survive later on if it hangs on to this piece of information. You know, like if you were to stub your toe and it hurts your toe on a brick, then your mind is going to say, oh, bricks are dangerous because it hurt. Right? Mm-hmm. And later on, that piece of information about bricks being hurtful is not really true. Right? Sure. So what I want to say is the innermost personality of someone is not even really their own personality. It's something they have created over time, thinking consciously or subconsciously that it's going to help you or help them. Right?
Yep.
Which then means their social personality is something that they feel like others should think of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's what they want us to think about them.
Right.
Sure.
So it's kind of like the little bit, you know, the plus size woman wearing clothes, making her thinking that others will think she's thinner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like a person using fancy words, $10 words, so you think they're smart. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So this means that to do deals, we need to pierce this social valence or social veneer and find out what the seller is really thinking. You got to get through that social veneer, that social acute attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get through their comfortableness and your comfortableness.
Yeah, they're not willing to. Want to hear Pete's analogy for the day?
Sure.
It's like you're holding your cards in your hand, like you're playing a game. You have cards in your hand, and you put the ones down that you're willing for people to know you have, and you're hanging on to the other ones you don't want them to know you have. And we're trying to find out what's in their hand.
Right.
You know, they call that playing your hands close to your chest, right?
Right.
Anyways, that's what I think of when you say this stuff. Like there's something going on that we don't know, that they might not know.
Right.
That's the part when the dealer puts the cards upside down on the table. Some are upside up, and you don't even know what the one's upside down is.
Right.
The guy's next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
There you go. So you have to be willing to pierce the social veneer. You have to be willing to ask certain questions. But here's the problem. Most people think these questions are evasive. So how do you get this information without being evasive? Right? Or in a way that they're willing to talk to us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does it mean to be evasive, Peter?
Well, you're trying to avoid answering. You don't want to answer. So you're saying when I'm talking to the seller, they're trying to they wouldn't want to answer some of these questions. They're avoiding it. Right. They'll say something, but it may not be the truth. So you ask a question, they'll say blah blah blah, and it's not really what they're thinking. Oh, I can't tell him that. If I tell him that, then he'll know something about me and take advantage of me and get my house for cheaper and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I got to keep up my front.
Yeah. So you want to be able to penetrate and get to the inner personality.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So, but some people have trouble with confronting that. You know, like here's a couple examples.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, how much a year do you make? Peter, how many? I'm just going to give you don't have to answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Peter,
right.
Peter, how many times do you and your wife have sex? Peter, how many girlfriends have you had in your life? Peter, how much money do you have in your bank? Peter, how much is your mortgage payment? How much do you pay for groceries every week? Right? Like these are considered in today's social environment, like
personal.
Yeah. And I mean,
some are, but some really aren't.
I guess invasive is a better word.
Invasive. Okay, yeah.
Like
we think they think we're being invasive, so they try to be evasive. That's how it works.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
All right. So when you do this correctly, each and every time we reveal the reason or reasons the seller is acting or behaving in a particular way. So what I'm going to do today is give you the word I'm using, maybe hopefully not too big a words today, colloquial. Right? So what does colloquial mean?
Well, that means like local, almost slang, like how we talk in certain areas, just modern words that may not, 100 years from now, may not be how people describe things, but it's how we speak to each other on some topics.
Right. So it's a everyday language that most people are expected to understand. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It's like, territory type talk.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So don't teach that in English as a second language.
Yeah. So we're going to go through some colloquial questions. In other words, some of them may not even be questions. They're just going to feel like it's just part of the conversation.
Oh.
Right?
Even better, huh?
Yeah. And after today, you'll learn how to get a seller to reveal their general desires and what they're willing or not willing to do and why. See, that's what happens with a lot of rookies is they'll go down this road, they'll feel uncomfortable and they'll not even make phone calls sometimes because they're so worried about it. Right? Because they feel like they're going to be too pushy. Right? See, a couple podcasts ago, I introduced this thing called hard sell.
Mm-hmm.
So that's bad language for what it really is.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but it's not.
Right? So technically what happens, like when you walk onto a used car lot and the salesman's being pushy about a car that you're not really interested in, that means that he's trying to sell that car to get something for him. Like there's probably a bonus on that car.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to get you to buy it for his benefit, not yours.
Sure.
That's where the connotation or the idea that sales is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody is trying to get you to do something for their benefit and not yours. So if you have an issue with sales, then just realize you don't have to do that. You can persuade people into doing things that are right for them. Mm. And they don't know it. And that's what hard sell is. Hard sell is knowing wholeheartedly in all of your beingness, all of you, that this will definitely change their life. And you do not give up trying to get them to do that. Mm-hmm. That's conviction. Mm-hmm. Right? So we have that type of a process because when we do what we're doing, we're helping the seller, we're helping the buyer, we're helping our money guys if we use them, and we're helping our family. There's too many greatest good for too many. It's the greatest good for the greatest number involved.
Yeah.
right?
You've been talking about that lately, and I've been working on that to make sure I've got that, and it's actually it's really different than thinking, oh, I'm just doing this for me, but than thinking like, no, I have more solutions than anybody. If they need, I can do more things for a person than a realtor. I can do more persons than an amateur. We have more options, more possibilities. We can shift left, right, up, down. We can do all kinds of things,
Right?
and with better money for the person.
Well, money's not always the problem.
No, but that's why he's kept it at the end. We can do more things.
You could have, like I had a client one time, I don't know why it's just popped into my head. He needed to move to Toronto. He was in Southington, Connecticut. He needed to move to Toronto because he was going to double his salary. And he had just had his third kid, I think, second or third kid. And the wife was complaining she needed help, and her family lived in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Money was not his button.
Right.
Money wasn't what he needed to be out of here in 3.5 weeks. That was his money. Money didn't fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So much so that when I bought the house, I actually bought it on a rent to own, and I shorted the mortgage like $500 or $600 a month. So in other words, his mortgage was I'm making up numbers because I don't remember. His mortgage was like $2,000 a month, and I think I paid him $1,300 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that, $1,400 a month. He kicked in the other money because money wasn't the problem.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before I divulge these magical questions, which you should be ready to write down, I wanted to say I have found too many rookies concentrating on what they are going to say next.
Mm-hmm.
And never really hear the seller tell them how to structure a deal. See, it's cause and effect, right? You're trying to generate an effect, okay? And if you generate an effect that has human emotion reaction, then that's where you should stay.
Ah.
Right? So if you say to the seller blah 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 and they go they get misemotional about it, then there's something there they're not confronting or trying to hide from you, one or the other. That's the place to stay. That's the room to stay in, because if you keep poking at them a little bit, in a bad way to put it, but if you keep poking at them a little bit, it'll pop out.
But we're told not to do that. Like, oh, sorry, I offended you. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why these questions are going to be so good, because it's going to do it for you, right? But my point is that the entrepreneurs that are listening to us spend too much time trying to get the words perfect and the script perfect. And I got to tell you, when I'm coaching somebody, and I can talk about this for, oh my God, endless amount of time. The number one thing that happens when I get a coaching client that I'm working with scripts on is the flow of the script. What question do I ask first? What do I ask second? What do I ask third? What happens when they say this? How do I handle that? It's like the flow. And they're so wrapped up into that flow of the script that they miss the point of the questions. They're so busy worrying about the questions and what they should do next, aka their acute personality, right? Their social personality is trying to run the conversation.
Oh.
Instead of just being who they are, somebody that cares about their seller and wants to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, doing it this way is a very big mistake, and leaves the rookie thinking they need to study every possible type of creative deal structure, plus how to handle all the seller's objections, stalls, and resistance. They feel like before they pick the phone up, that 4-ton phone, right? That 450,000 pound phone, right? Before they can pick it up, they have to know all these things. They got to know everything possible so that they don't feel like they're being amateur and can't answer the questions. And then they never make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But today, if you use the questions I'm about to give you, the seller will start giving you their offer as they answer. If you really listen to the answers. Now, I'm not going to tell you my story of why this is coming about because I think we don't have enough time. But I will tell you that I used to travel 45 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm.
All over the country. And we used to offer automotive repair consulting. So we would meet with auto repair. I would meet with a dozen auto repair shop owners weekly. All over the country, all different genres, all different everything, right?
Yep.
And I can tell you that I kind of lost my train of thought. I could tell you that it's interesting. Let me get my mind. I had it perfectly and then I lost it. I lost my train of thought. I have to move on. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I think
it'll be back.
I think my only point is that if you don't find out what's occurring with them, then you're not going to be able to help them, right?
Yeah. But we think we do, and then nothing happens, so I guess we didn't, right?
Right. I read a policy that was written by the guy that actually owned this company, this consulting company.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that it was a policy, right? And I read it, and I read it, and I read it, and I was like, holy crap. Because sometimes I'd spend 2 or 3 hours with each one of my clients before I close them. And he said the best consultants can do an entire cycle in a half hour, 45 minutes, because they would find out what's wrong and what needs to be helped, and then give it to them, and the person would do it. Right? All right. So
Yeah.
now, relieving you of having to know every deal structure in rebuttal, here are some of the questions. Okay?
Yep.
And I think I have about 9 or 10 of them. Some you've heard before, but some you haven't. So I'm going to just number them just to keep track of them. These are not the numbers that you give in order. These are just random numbers so you can keep track of the questions when I'm talking about them, right?
Sure.
So number 1, how long have you been trying to sell?
Yeah.
Right? Why is that important? Days on market. I'm going to read these first. I'm going to just read them and then we're going to go over them a little bit. Not every one of them, but we're going to go over the ones that I think are important.
Yep.
So number 1, and I'm going to read each one twice so you can write them down. So number 1, how long have you been trying to sell? Number 2, what other alternatives have you considered? Number 2, what other alternatives have you considered? Number 3, if I had a magic wand and could give you an ideal closing, what would that look like to you? You've heard me say that multiple times, and I have multiple ways in saying it, but for this podcast, it's if I had a magic wand and I could give you an ideal closing, what would that look like to you? Number 4, in parentheses, if they need all cash. Out of parentheses, the question. What are your plans for the money? So number 4, in parentheses, if they need all cash. The question is, what are your plans for the money?
Yep.
Number 5, if you were a buyer or an investor Would you buy this deal?
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of my favorite questions. I've seen you do that. Because they're doing, I don't know, they're doing something ridiculous, and you go, what the hell?
Right.
Would you do that?
Right. And then you need to ask why or why not. So number 5 is if you were a buyer or an investor, depending on the property. If you were a buyer or an investor, would you buy this deal? Question mark. Why or why not?
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, is there anything about this property I won't like?
And you expect them to answer that one? Wow.
Yeah. They won't want to lie to you. 80% of the population won't want to lie to you. 20% they don't care. They'll lie to you. But 80%, 85% won't. They're social personalities.
All right, so say it again.
Yeah. Number 6, is there anything about this property I won't like?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So those are just questions, right? Some of them are in my script, some of them are not. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, here are some test closing questions.
Oh.
Test closing questions to help you structure a deal. Now, the slang for this, or the crudeness of these questions, what they are, is what I speak of taking their temperature.
Right.
Finding out where they're at. Are they hot or cold?
Yep.
Right? So I'm going to number these with letters now. They're not numbers. They're going to be letters. So we can keep track of the difference.
Yep.
So A, this is your question. What is more important to you, getting your price or getting your profit? Or getting more profit?
Yep.
So A is, what is more important to you, getting your price or getting more profit? Now this one is new. This one I want to somehow put in the scripts. I haven't figured out where yet, but I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot. We need to do this. In fact, I am requiring you, Peter, when you're talking to my leads, do this on every single call.
Cool.
Every single seller, every single call.
All right.
Bar none. I don't care who they are.
And I haven't heard this either?
Nope.
Wow. All right.
B. By the way, when would you like me to make you a written offer?
Wow.
B. By the way, when would you like me to make you a written offer?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I've been trying to not jump the gun when I talk to people about anything. Any business type thing, especially this. Because if you jump ahead, you lose them. So I've been trying to find what's all the little increments along the way, including like asking them like anything, like, can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? Like, well, I'm going to send you an offer. What if they don't want you to send an offer?
Right.
What if they don't want you to, you really, wouldn't it be incredibly intelligent to ask them, can I ask you about this? Can I ask you about that? When would you like me? And get their agreement on every step of the way. So that's really crazy good in that respect. Otherwise, you do something that they don't want you to do. That's the only reason somebody would ghost you if you did something. So if you ask their permission or agreement, then you do it. How are they going to get mad?
Right. So
it's really very clever.
Yeah, it is actually, and there's a specific reason why I'm doing it, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
Because I just made an agreement with one of my coaching clients to start making offers for us.
Okay.
So the question is, B, by the way, when would you like me to make you a written offer? C, when did you want to close by? We used to use this on the old Ron LeGrand scripts. with Pat Live and stopped using them, right?
Yeah.
Now that question is a dual question.
Oh.
So I put C, when did you want to close by?
Mm-hmm.
If they're living in the property, it would be when did you want to move by?
Yeah. Yeah, it used to say move by, but then it would be a landlord. He's not moving, so it's a sell.
Right.
If they're not living in it, they're selling, they're not moving.
So you could use close by for anybody, because even a person living in it would give you an answer, right?
Yeah.
That right there is going to give you the motivation. But we're going to come to that in a minute.
Sure.
D, in parentheses, if there is no equity. D, in parentheses, if there is no equity. Would you be willing to sell that for what you owe on it? In parentheses again, if no, ask how much do they want in their pocket and negotiate that amount, not the price.
Yeah.
If no, ask how much do they want in their pocket and negotiate that amount, not the price. So from the top.
Yeah.
D, in parentheses, if there is no equity, the question would be, would you be willing to sell for what you owe on it? In parentheses again, if no, ask how much do they want in their pocket and negotiate that amount, not the price.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, without any doubt in my head, that one question is the only question you need to find and do subject to deals. There is no other script. And then to follow up on that, because I didn't put this in the script, I'm just going to talk about it now. What happens with most rookies when they're looking for a subject to deal is they go into this whole dissertation or explanation about how a subject to deal works. The follow-up to this is, okay, so you're willing to sell for what you owe on it. They don't want any money. Here's how it works, which is very important, though that's another statement. Here's how it works. We're going to take the property out of your name and put it into a trust, and we are going to manage the trust. So technically, the mortgage stays in your name, and the deed is in a trust that we manage. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Moving on with our questions. E. Now this, Peter, I read this about several weeks ago, and I forgot to tell you about this. This question is not, this is not my question, by the way. I forgot where I got it from, but it's not mine. So E, in parentheses, if they are behind on payments. Right? So E, in parentheses, if they are behind on payments.
Yeah.
The question is, would you be interested in I'm going to give that to you again. Would you be interested in me making up your past payments, taking over the property, and keep improving your credit? It's the keep improving your credit that is new to me.
Huh.
So E, I'll say it again, E, in parentheses, if they are behind in payments, would you be interested in me making up your past payments, taking over the property, and keep improving your credit?
in this case, would there be any equity in the house, or are they just under at this point?
It doesn't matter. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the magic there is in keep improving your credit.
Yeah, because they're ruining it.
Well, they already know it's ruined, and they already put themselves into, kind of like, what's a good movie? I'm thinking of movies where there's an underground community and an above ground community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Some of the sci-fi movies where there's, the underground community that are the underdogs and the fighters, and the above ground is where the suppressive people are and running the community, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This kind of gets you there. Once they lose their credit, they kind of go underground. They're like a sub-population, right? And they know that they can't be like the rest of us with credit. So when you say keep improving your credit, it's a huge thing.
Sure.
There you go, Chris. Thanks, Chris. He said, like the Demolition Man movie. There you go. That's good. All right. Now, I promise, if you dabble around with these questions without any real order to them, you will minimally, and I'm going to cover some points here, you'll minimally know from question C, when did you want to close by or move by, their motivation. I've asked that question, and it's like October of one year, and they'll say, oh, I don't know, I want to stay till June of next year on my granddaughter to graduate from this school. I don't want to take them out of a school.
Sure.
Or it'll be May, and they'll be like, I don't know, Christmas. I want my family to have one more Christmas in the house. Right? So, obviously, the longer it is, the less motivated they are.
Yeah, the longer it is, the more solutions there could be. And the shorter it is, like you're running out of options. And I don't mean the real estate term. If it's like your 3.5 week guy, the couple we had for 6 weeks, there's not too many options.
Too many choices. Yeah, too many choices. Yeah.
Yeah, not to confuse with our option. Yeah, because some things take a long time.
Right.
Realtors could take a long time.
So I know that I have tried to convert these people, these longer term people, by saying, how about if we do the paperwork now and you stay until blah.
Yeah.
And I try to lock the deals up. That works probably 1 or 2 times out of 10.
Yeah.
It's not a good solution, which is why I don't talk about it much, but it is a way to do it. So by just asking, almost like, what is your price? Right? So actually, I just figured it out. I'm going to change the script now. So you do your pleasantries, right? You talk your pleasantries, right? You say, okay, whose name is on the deed?
Yeah.
No. Is the house for sale?
Yeah.
Still for sale, because you want to make sure you didn't sell it to 5 minutes before you got there. Whose name is on the deed? Then you could ask, when did you want to move by?
Yeah.
And then you could say, what's the price? What's your price? That'd be a perfect place to put that. In fact, I'm going to go change that this afternoon in the script. I didn't think of that till just now.
Yep.
All right. Then by number 1, how long have you seen... I'm sorry. By number 1, how long have you been trying to sell? Right?
Right.
That'll tell you their struggle. Either why they're selling or their struggle with selling.
Yeah.
All right. So understand it's like a chain of events. Right? In computer language, it's called the URL chain. In other words, you go to this page, then that page, and then this page, and then that page. It's a chain. It's a chain linked together.
Okay.
Okay? So if you say to them, how long have you been trying to sell? And they say 8 months, you have to go backwards on the chain now. Oh, why is it taking you 8 months? Well, because the realtor really messed up. Oh, okay. So what were you expecting from the realtor? And then you're in the realm of, oh, I have to sell because.
Would the question, what other alternatives have you considered, would that fit in there?
I'm going to get there next.
Okay.
Right.
Because these aren't necessarily, are these in sequence or just when
You can use them
when
whenever.
it's appropriate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking of that, like just some questions that would fit whenever you needed them to.
Right.
Because sometimes we have trouble making a script that goes in sequence because it can't. They'll say something, so you just have to have some,
When I teach scripts, when I teach it, which I haven't for a while because but I teach it, I'll say there's 10 points you need to cover, or 10 questions, we'll say. 1 through 10. This is an arbitrary number. 1 through 10, right? You're going to call up and start with 1 and want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You'll get to question 2 and they automatically jump into question number 7. So they jump ahead. Right? So what I do, which is more innate than training, right? It's just my nature, is they're at number 7. Let me handle number 7. And then I do 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I circle back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, now you surprised me. I totally, I've worked on this with you before. I even moved some scripts around in sequence to do that. But 7 makes sense because they're talking to you. I thought you would go back to where you left off. Wouldn't you be getting ahead to the end of the script and miss things you would need to know in the beginning?
Okay, so there's a difference, because if I ask a question in number 2, I want an answer. So I'm going to make sure I go back and finish question number 2.
Yeah.
But if their reality is in question number 7, I'm going to finish off number 2, make sure I got what I needed.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to go to 7, and then I'm going to go 7, 8, 9, 10, and then go back and probably do 3, 4, 5, 6, because I need to do all of them to get everything I need.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. So, but it makes sense. Like if they're on 7, they're thinking ahead. So the next questions would finish that whole topic and how that works. And then, is it possible that the guy would be happy and be done, and you don't need any of the earlier questions?
No, the problem is that even if you don't ask the questions, you want to verify.
Okay.
Right? Did you know this? We're going to do that. Did you know that? Then we're going to want to do this, and you're aware of that, and you want to go over the points because you don't want to leave anything out.
That makes sense, because if they're already past that and they don't need it, you just want to make sure there isn't something like you might hit question 4 or 5 and they go, oh, wait a minute. Then you can fix it. Right. If no, you just wrap it up. That makes sense.
And a good example is I've sold 5 houses, so I know what you're talking about. So I know what a lease option is. So you don't have to, so you could just start from there. So would you consider doing a lease option? Yeah. Right? And then you do 7, 8, 9, 10. But then you go back and say, what are your expectations of a lease option? How do you expect this to work? To make sure he fully understands what a lease option is. Sure.
You'd go over the details that he's in agreement with everything, even though he cursorily said, oh, sure, I know all about it.
But you don't need to convince him to do a lease option. He already knows what it is. But once you get a deal done, you go back and verify, like, oh, you said you knew what it was, but let me just check.
That's really interestingly makes sense.
Yeah.
Because people will jump ahead like they want to get through. They're really impatient lately. They just want to get to the end right away. So you have to do that because you're there, but then you have to fill in the blanks to make sure it's not a minefield of a problem that comes up later, like in 2 minutes in the conversation later.
So moving on, because we only have 10 minutes left and I have a lot to cover. So moving on, what other... question number 2, what other alternatives you have considered, right?
Yeah.
So what they've considered now that they wouldn't consider before, basically that's my statement, time changes everything.
Yeah.
Before they only wanted cash, now they can't get all cash, and now they're going to listen to some other alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
From number 3, if I had a magic wand and I could give you a deal, give you an ideal closing, what would that look like for you? Would be your actual deal structure. This is them giving you an offer.
Yeah, it's not just the price, it's how they want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's in the raw. It's in the rough, though. You can't just take it. It's in the rough. That with some other questions, which I'm going to cover, you can smoothen it out. But this is in the rough. Like when you say, if I had a magic wand and I could give you an ideal closing, what would that look like to you? They're going to structure the offer for you. You don't need to be a deal structure maniac.
Yeah.
Right? They'll actually tell you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they may not know all the choices they have, but all you need to do is break it down to, I want all cash or I'm willing to take payments.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know which way to go, right? From number 4, if they want all cash, what are your plans for the money? This gives you a why. Why do they want all the money? Or as I said earlier, the reason or reasons for the seller acting or behaving a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody says they want all cash, the only thing that you should see in your head, or the only thing you should think of in your mind, is this. Why? What is it that's happening in their life that they need this much money? In other words, this is like a Christmas fund. For 11 months, you put money into it. Now you're going to the bank and saying, give me my money, I want to go Christmas shopping. So why? Because Christmas is December 25th and they need presents. They don't need the money, they need presents.
Oh, wow. To be more specific, it's true.
They don't need the money, they don't want to be embarrassed to show up without presents. So when they say, I want all cash, you need to find out what are they going to do with the cash. And what will they feel like if they didn't have it?
Yeah.
Another great question, just before or after this one, is what's more important to you, getting your price or more profit? So those two questions go hand in hand.
Well, that one would tell you if they wanted cash.
Right.
Then you do the question.
And then you could do the question, or you could do it the other way around. Right.
Okay.
So question number 5, if you were a buyer or investor, would you do this deal? Why or why not? This tells us what they think about investors and buyers. More importantly to me, and this is huge to me because I've talked to way too many sellers, how oblivious they are to where the money's coming from that they're asking for. They're not. They're not thinking that the house is worth $200 and they're asking $250 and somebody's just going to pay it. So how do you get the house appraised for $250? So the bank will lend on it, or find that cash buyer. And why would that person that has $250,000 in cash want to buy that property and pay over $50,000? Because if they have $250,000 in cash, they're savvy with money and they're not going to overpay by $50,000.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's like a little peephole into their mind, right? And it gives you their core personality. They're being greedy.
Yeah, you look at the deck of cards they have in their hand. You know what you pull out? The Joker.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I've talked to people like, how much you want for your condo? $1 million. Okay, I'll be right there with the check.
Yeah. So the question is if you got the $1 million, what would you do with it?
Yeah.
Right. From question number 6, is there anything about the property I won't like? Tells us what they're trying to hide from us. Like I said, with about 80 or 85% of the people.
Yeah.
More importantly, this is what I talk about. So I think out of all the podcasts I've done about objection, stalls, and resistance, I think in scripting, this is the best.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just giving it to you direct as if as if I'm just talking to you and I'm coaching you. But I think if you use these questions in conversational manner, you will get the right answers from the sellers, and you'll really find out what's going on, and they will make you an offer. With these questions, they will make you an offer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's what I was telling you. Here's my new technology. So realize these questions are designed for taking money out of real estate and not putting money into real estate.
Granted.
So this is my motto, right? How do you take money out of real estate and not put money into real estate? And if you know how to do it, it's magical. 99% of real estate transactions are not done that way.
Probably, yeah.
Let me explain. Most don't realize there's two types of flipping. Right?
Yeah.
I used to discuss this as flipping ugly or pretty houses.
Yeah.
But I have noticed it's not really that way. It's more like this. There's two ways of flipping real estate. One, you're flipping one is flipping real estate, the property.
Yep. Right.
We're going to call that FREP, F-R-E-P, flipping real estate property.
Okay.
I didn't say property the first time. So we're flipping real estate property.
The property itself.
Right. Number two, we're flipping real estate documents.
But I'm glad you didn't say paperwork.
Yeah.
It would have came out the same. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say paperwork. But you have to say documents.
And we call that Fred.
And that's a real word.
Yeah.
Fred.
So you're either doing one or the other. We're flipping real estate property, which is all about the property, or we're flipping real estate documents, which is what we teach, which is Fred. Now recognize that both of these are done with the intention of immediately selling for our profit. So flipping real estate property, well, let me just keep reading because I covered it all here. So you understand? So now realize that both of these are done with the intention of immediately selling with or for profit.
I'm only confused because in Fred, aren't we holding property, not immediately selling it?
We're selling it, no, because we sell it on a rent to own, and I'm going to cover this.
Okay.
But with the flipping real estate property, the FREP, you will need discounts, and the only way to add value is usually with renovations.
Right.
And it's a slow payday.
Yeah.
Because you have to buy, close, renovate, sell, close, profit.
Sure.
It's a slow payday, months minimally.
Yep.
Okay. So the only, well, anyways, and this is mostly because it's all about location and condition for the buyers and the money lenders. Now, when I say real estate's made to take money out of it, not put money into it, it's because the money's already in the deal. And when we're doing FREP and we're doing flipping real estate properties, we're actually replacing that loan. Right? And that's what the realtor system does, is they're constantly looking for new money.
Right. The old mortgage gets paid off, new one takes over.
Too often, creative real estate rookies fall short on the creative aspect by not being curious enough to dig into how much value the seller could get by not taking all cash now to replace the money already in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
The seller went through the process of funding the deal when they bought it. All you need to do now is concentrate on giving the seller so much value they can't say no to you. And when you start doing this, sellers will start realizing they are getting up to 6 profits instead of 1 profit with the Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Minus, of course, closing costs when selling for all cash. So if they sell for all cash, which is the FREP, flipping real estate property, right? It's all about appraisals and it's all about the money line. So in other words, the closing is dependent on 6 or 7 other professionals to say whether you can or can't buy this property, which is bankers, insurance guys, appraisals, right? Inspectors, realtors, title guys. All those people have to say yes or no. There's too many places for you to have a deal fall apart. When we do Fred and we just flip the documents, the deal's already done. All we're doing is changing the owner. We're changing who's going to control these documents. Everything else is done for you. So why do all that work all over again? Right? When you do Fred deals, flipping real estate docs, we can offer up to 70% more money, right?
Yep.
Right? Profits with higher prices, which is more equity for the seller. Monthly cash flow, principal pay down, depreciation, appreciation, things like loan interest tax deductions, etc. There's 5 or 6 different. In fact, we did that. I should have went and looked at the podcast. If you did a subject to deal, there was like 20 profit centers. Right? Remember we did that a long time ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you don't think of them. You never think of them because you look at one at a time. You never sit there like, let's add them all up and go, holy crap. Even the basic 6 or 5 or 6, it's like, whoa, add that all up.
Yeah. I just read a statistic that went something like this. About 77% of investors with at least $1 million in assets own real estate. And I feel that's because it's not only a multiple profit center, but it has multiple tax benefits. I know people or have known people that buy real estate just because their business makes so much money they need the tax write-offs.
Got to put it somewhere.
Right? And those tax write-offs for the real estate owned bring down their natural income. Tax-wise. Right? My last point for today before we end off, because we're at 2 minutes over the hour. Why 93%, and that's an arbitrary number because I think it's actually 96%, but why 93% of all creative real estate entrepreneurs are poor? Is because we get paid from our buyers giving us the money, not the sellers. We spend too much time trying to handle sellers, studying creative real estate strategies. We spend, sometimes I've met people doing this for decades, trying to figure out what to do with the seller. Now, of course, our sellers allow us. Now listen to what I'm going to tell you, because this is probably the most important of this entire podcast. The most important point in my head of this podcast.
Okay.
Now, of course, the sellers allow us to use their property to attract the buyers. Much like flies to honey. All we need to do is have the concept that we need to convince the seller, and not even convince them, show them the value they're going to get if they let us use their property to attract the buyers, because our paycheck is coming from the buyer, not the seller.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if you don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 houses on the market for buyers to see, how do you expect to get paid? Which is why we were talking about, I think, in episode 414, I don't remember which one it was, a couple episodes ago, the Zelter system. I'm sorry, Zielter system. I keep saying it wrong. Zielter system, which is just getting a bunch of option agreements stacked up and getting ready to sell. That's pretty much what a realtor does. A realtor stacks up their listing agreements and gets a bunch of them on the MLS, hoping one of them will pop this month, or two of them will pop this month. So if you're not presenting properties to a buyer, and the buyer is the one that's going to pay you and get you to go free, and you're spending all your time, all your effort, all your money on how to talk to sellers, you're going to be poor. Pete, isn't it funny that so many rookies worry about this? Worry about talking to sellers, hoping to get a deal, and get all wrapped up in the semantics and the details of the seller, and the seller doesn't pay them. And what happens is they never get a property to present to buyers who will crack open their wallet and pay our rookies handsomely. Which is why we did podcast number 419, two best creative real estate strategies for rookies today. Podcast number 414, two best creative real estate strategies for rookies today. You should listen to it again if you've listened to it before after today's podcast. There we talked a lot about how to get deals quickly and without resistance, so you can start building a massive buyers list, along with monthly chunks of dough. So in today's description, I put a link on how you could buy seller leads for $1.99 each and get us to work those leads for you so you don't have to do it. All you need to do is talk to sellers and use these questions I give you today and just start doing some of these deals. What I'm trying to do, Peter, and I keep telling you that these podcasts, after 400 of them, I had this realization that the podcast isn't trying to get you to do anything different. We're trying to get your thinking to change.
Yeah.
Right? And what I'm trying to implement right now is that in this environment, especially where prices are overpriced and where houses days on market are short term, like they sell quick, there's no reason why you can't sign an option agreement with a seller on whatever they're asking, right? Put it on the market. We showed you how to do that in podcast number. Let me get my book here. Podcast number 414, right? We gave you 101 ways to sell a house. So you bring it to the market. Bringing it to market is presenting the house so buyers can come and look at it. So does it matter if you get an option agreement with someone that and don't sell it? Does it matter? Well, yeah, it does matter. It absolutely does matter if that's the only deal you have.
Yeah, you're right.
But if you've got 6 or 7 or 8 of them on the market, you don't care. Mm-hmm. It's like you're just waiting to see which one pops.
So let me say, in spite of all the podcasts we did, and you said that, and me thinking it in my head, you helped me last week directly with one specific deal. I won't go into details, but I was looking at one deal. Should I do it or not? And I had some just like, well, I don't know if I can. I can't. It has this problem or that problem. I'm thinking yes or no. And then it's like, doesn't matter. Just throw it out there.
Right.
Don't worry about the problem. Figure it out later, or just don't worry about it, or don't sell it. What do the realtors do? Throw it on the market. See what happens.
Realtor does the same thing. So so here's your choice. Here's your choice. You should think when you're on the phone with a seller, if I don't do this deal, an option deal, and get it under contract with the seller, the next choice they have is go to a realtor, and the realtor is going to make the 5%, not me.
Yeah.
I'm giving the realtor 5% of my money.
Yeah.
By not doing it. Because minimally, if you just make 5%, just like the realtor, which is bare minimum, I mean, 5% on a $200,000 house is how much?
$10,000.
Yeah. How much is it on a $300,000 house?
$15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is it on a $500,000 house?
$20,000.
Right? Oh, yeah. By the way, the $500,000 house is just as easy to sell as the $100,000 house. So if you're living in an area where there's $800,000 houses, you should be doing this like knocking sticks down, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Anyways, that helped me not to overthink, like, can I, can't I? And I'm not a big nervous Nelly. I don't like doing a crappy job. But it's like, just do it and then make it work as you go along or not. Like everybody else does.
And it's going to teach you all the things that we talk about in 420 podcasts. Because it's going to force you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you blow the deal up and it goes crappy, so what? You put $100 down for a deposit, option consideration deposit, and yeah, the seller might be pissed off at you, but you probably don't even know them. And if you're doing virtual deals, they're 1,000 miles away from you. What do you care?
Yeah, but they understand if something doesn't work because they lived through it. They know it. They know what happened. Like,
I'm just saying that's the worst that can happen.
Yeah, but they don't even,
The point is that the money comes from the buyer. So you need to present. This is like having a used car lot with a 2-acre parking lot and 5 cars on it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember in COVID? That's how it was. Used car lots had 5 cars on them. How could they make money with 5 cars?
Yep.
They're supposed to have
supermarket, empty shelves.
Right, exactly. Right? So how are you expecting to make money when your grocery store has empty shelves?
Merchandise.
So you don't need to interrogate the question. You don't need to get a bunch of equity. I promise you, if you do these questions I talk about today and some of the other scripts that we've talked about, I promise you, if you talk to enough people and just expect to get an option agreement at the very least, other deals will fall in your lap and you will make those equity deals. See, what's happened to the creative real estate industry, right, is, first of all, nobody's designated the difference between what does a realtor do and what do we do. A realtor flips real estate property, right?
Yep.
They get new money. We're going to cover this in podcast 421. The next podcast, we're going to cover this in detail.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that. The money's already in the deal. We're flipping real estate documents that control the property. And those documents are designed that if the deal goes sideways, you don't get hurt. But if the property's in your name, you get hurt. If you took a bank loan for $400,000 and it doesn't go right and you're stuck with a $3,000 a month mortgage, you get hurt. We don't do that. Anyways, we're 13 minutes over. I got on a rant there. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you like us. Make sure you leave a comment. And if you have any questions, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side, there's a support ticket there. Or join our WhatsApp messenger group the group is called Let's Talk Real Estate. It's our little mastermind group. It's got about 100 people in it. Okay? Over and out. Chris says, great episode. Thanks, Chris. Over and out. And catch up with you on podcast number 421. And it's called The Ultimate Barrier to Every Creative Real Estate Deal. Have a good week.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.